My 13th album is called Rebel Heart. It's called Rebel Heart because those are the two strongest aspects of my personality. The rebellious side, the side that wants to challenge and defy convention, and the romantic side that wants to express myself in a more intimate, vulnerable way. For me, it's about feeling. It's about the resistance that an artist always has to push against to express themselves. It's the restraint that one feels to think outside the box, to defy convention. A rebel always has to fight against something, so there's always something holding you down. So if you're a freedom fighter or you're rebellious in one way or another, you want to make change in the world, there's always going to be some line you're not allowed to cross, some button that you're going to have to push, some convention, as I said, that you are going to have to defy. So the rope, the ribbon, whatever, represents an oppression that you have to fight against. Living for Love is about recovering and surviving heartache, heartbreak, betrayal, and it's about feeling hopeful in spite of being devastated. And I think it's a good way to start. It's a good opening statement because it's positive, life-affirming, and really it's what we all live for. I'm not happy about that.
So,
I love Japan. I'm coming back.
Would you?
Yeah, of course. My message for the Japanese fans is that I'll be back soon, and I'm very excited to come on my next tour, and thank you for your support.
So I know you're sick of talking about it, so let's just get it out of the way first. This Brit Awards fall. Did you know that you were in trouble like a second or two before it happened, or did it catch you by surprise?
It caught me by surprise because I'd rehearsed it 15 times, and there's a string that was tied in a bow. My cape was tied in a bow around my neck, and I pulled it, and it didn't come undone. It just stayed. It like went into a weird knot, and then the girls, the two Japanese girls who were instructed to pull the cape, were so far away from me because the cape was so long. They didn't know that the string didn't come undone. They didn't imagine or factor it in to the plan to look and make sure that it was
The string was
off.
done. The string was undone.
So they just yanked. I didn't fall. They yanked me off the stage. It was either, death by strangulation or fall down the stairs.
Well, speaking of award shows,
Yeah.
you took Nas and Diplo to the Grammys.
Excellent dates, I think.
That's what I was going to ask. How are they as escorts?
Very good. Very funny.
And worked with them in the studio as well.
Yep.
Diplo, the one who convinced you to go into the origin story in Veni Vidi Vici, right?
Yep.
Did that take convincing to get you to do that?
Not really. It was like, basically he suggested that I take a trip down memory lane. It's like, you've like gone through so much. Just talk about it. And talk about it like, he's like, don't sing about it, talk about it. So that's why it's sort of delivered in a nonchalant, speaking kind of way.
And that made sense to you?
You know what? I trusted Diplo, and he's got good taste. A lot of what we did was an experiment, and I just went for it.
And also on the track, you have Nas. Had you met him before you guys started working together?
No, but I always admired him, and it was like such an honor for me to work with him. Love his music, love what he stands for, love what he's about.
And then I think of you guys as sort of, like New York pillars in a way, but in kind of different ways.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did you guys have any chats about New York or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we did. We had lots of chats.
What did you guys talk about?
Just clubs, scenes, rappers, people, you know, New York, what it was, what it used to be like, how we miss it, that sort of thing.
That's what I was gonna ask. Did New York, did it used to be just a lot more fun than it is now?
I'm not gonna lie, it was more fun.
Right?
Yeah.
What about the city's changed where it's just not as fun as it used to be?
It's just not a scene anymore. Like, imagine, okay, so we're in this room right now, surrounded by Keith Haring and Basquiat and Warhol, but those were my peeps. Like, we hung out together, and we came up together, and we were making art at the same time together, and we shared ideas together. Their art was on the street and accessible to everybody, and I don't know, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right, because art and pop used to have,
Synergy.
and now they don't, do they?
No, not really.
Not in the way you used to feel it, right?
No, not in the way I experienced it. I mean, I was like, we were all making art together, influencing one another. I mean, when I had shows, in the early days when I was performing and I did shows at, say, the Paradise Garage or the Roxy, Keith would say, oh, let me paint on your jacket and your skirt and like create your costume for you. You know what I mean? And
right.
Andy Warhol would be in the audience and Larry Levan would be spinning and, you know, just a whole different scene. Then the Rocksteady crew would show up and breakdancing everywhere and different time.
Let's talk about the album, because when I'm looking at the producer credits, I'm like, good God, you know, I'm looking at all these names, you know, Diplo.
The gods of music.
Yes. And one sticks out to me, which is Kanye West. How did you guys end up
working
up?
together?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're friends. I've known him for years. We worked together on 2 albums ago. He worked on a track that Pharrell produced. And we ran into each other at a party and we got to talking and he just said, you know, where are you with your record? I know you're making a record right now and I want to hear it. And I said, okay. So he came over to my house one day and then he listened to everything and he said, first he said, I want to do with you what Rick Rubin's did with me, with my album. I had almost finished it and then Rick came in and basically like went through every track and like made comments, made things better, stripped things down, blah, 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 and like godfathered it basically.
Right.
That's what he said he wanted to do with my album. And I said, great, let's go. But then he forgot that he had to do like 20 other projects. And so he ended up only working on 4 songs, and then we wrote another song together, which is gonna be on his record.
Of all the producers that you worked with, who did you have the best chemistry with?
That's kind of unfair. I mean, I had really good chemistry with just about everybody. Producer-wise, who did I have the most fun with? And I would say Diplo.
Diplo?
Yeah. I feel like he's most like me. I don't know why. I just...
Kindred Spirits, Madonna and Diplo?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, I was reading that you saw that a lot of people were on their phones, and I think about the way that maybe like albums are different. You know, it's like, it seems like they're almost done over email now. Is it different now, the way these things are constructed just at their architecture?
Yeah, I mean, people do produce records in their hotel rooms, in airport terminals while they're waiting for planes, you know, like in between gigs. So they're done in a very fragmented way, and that was hard for me to adapt to.
Yeah, is something lost in that process, you think?
For sure. Continuity and a lot of stems. Like, you can't imagine how many stems went missing. That I was going to rename my record Where Are the Stems? Because I would work on stuff with Diplo, and then he would give me an MP3 of a mix, and then he'd leave, and then I'd try to recreate that sound later. He'd send all the parts, the stems, the 808, this synth part, this vocal, whatever, and it wouldn't sound the same. So then we'd find out there were stems missing, and then I'd be harassing him and texting him in, like, you know, wherever he was, in Vegas or, you know, some crazy major laser party, or you know, just saying, where are you got to send me the music, you sent me the wrong tracks, and that happened a lot, so that was really frustrating. So I think a lot of those producers are used to working with people that way, and I would just say, well, I'm not going to work this way. I'm waiting till you come back into the city and you're in the room with me, and then we're going to finish the track.
Talk it out.
We're going to like look into each other's eyes and finish this song. So and people used to say to me, you're the only person I would come back to work on a song with. And I'm like, that's outrageous that you would say such a thing. But that's
like how it goes now.
That's how it goes now, yeah.
When I look at the guest features on the album, you know, Chance the Rapper, Nicki Minaj, Nas, A-List, you know, all these names pop out. But the one that, to me, I was like, huh? You know, like, that really stands out to me is Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So you have to tell me how Mike Tyson got involved, what Mike Tyson was like, your relationship with Mike Tyson. I need to know everything.
Well, I wrote a song called Iconic, and I was thinking, who, in my mind, I wanted to have a featured artist on it. And I kept thinking, who is, in my eyes, like who's super iconic? Like, who do I look up to? Who's alive today that's been through, like, what I feel like I've been through, that's been through a lot, survived, has stories to tell, has evolved as a human being, you know, et cetera, is a survivor. His name came to mind right away. And part of that is because, first of all, I've known him for years. I knew him back in the day when he was married to Robin Givens. I had just seen his HBO documentary, his one-man show that Spike Lee directed, and I was so moved by it and so impressed by it. So he just was in the back of my mind anyways. And I'm like, Mike Tyson. So
and then he gets
my
in
manager
there.
called his manager, and he got on the phone and he asked me what the song was about and what I wanted him to do, and he said, I'll be in New York in 2 weeks. I'll be there. So he was there. He was on time. He made no demands except he wanted Twizzlers, and that's it. He came in and he did like several rants. I could put out a 20-minute record of Mike Tyson ranting if I wanted to.
I think people would be interested in that.
Oh yes, they would. He's very inspiring.
He is. And I've noticed that this album, it's rooted in hip hop in a way that your previous albums haven't been, and I'm wondering why.
Is it?
Leaning towards, I think so.
Well, if it is, that wasn't done
intentionally.
No, I mean, I have a lot of connections to people in the hip hop world, and hip hop has influenced me, but I'm also influenced by dance music and, you know, folk music, for, you know, classical music, everything.
Well, I'm wondering, even if it's subconscious, you know, as a boundary pusher, I'm wondering, maybe if you're going to look for something subversive, maybe hip hop is where it is more than pop.
Yeah, true. Although there's a lot of, I wish hip hop was more subversive than it is. It was more subversive in the 90s. Let's face it.
How do you think it's different? Why do you say that?
Because I feel like hip hop was more street poetry than it is now. It's become also more mainstream, more populist. But you know, although artists like Kanye are obviously much more subversive than other artists. So, or Tyler the Creator, for instance.
Right. Is there anybody maybe you'd like to work with that you haven't in hip hop yet?
Oh, I love Kendrick Lamar. That would be pretty amazing. I did actually reach out to him, but he was busy making his record, and he was like, okay, in a month, but I didn't have a month.
You didn't have a month to give?
Yeah.
Not even for Kendrick?
Well, I could have if I didn't have a hacker, but I did, so I had to kind of hurry
Oh
things
yeah,
up.
get that thing moving.
Yeah, so, but he's somebody that I wanted to work with, so.
Do your kids listen to hip hop?
Yeah, my son, Rocco, yeah.
What sort of influence do they have on you as far as your art?
Well, it was good when they gave me the thumbs up, you know.
You have like a
I
little
listened to
focus
stuff.
group.
Totally, yeah. Mom, that bass line sucks. Oh, Mom, like all the Diplo tracks. My daughter would be like texting me from college, going, "Can you send me Bitch I'm Madonna?" And I'm like, "No, it's not out yet. I can't send you anything." So, anyway, that was a good sign. That was a compliment.
So like, yeah, if they're like, this is like something that we'd party to, that means you have a hit.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Well, it just, or means I've made something relevant. I don't know.
You open up a lot in this album. I wonder, is it easier to do when you're on album number 13 than it is on album number 1? Or is it harder to do?
I don't see, no, not necessarily, because if you just start out, you know, people have no expectations, so you feel maybe freer than you would after you've been around a while. I think that I've been writing personal songs and opening up for my entire career in one way or another. There's probably just more songs on this album that are personal than others.
Bjork is another woman who's been around for decades, and her album, probably the most personal of her career, though hers is about a breakup, which makes me wonder, is there anything in your life that's maybe too intimate to share in a song? Too sacred?
I wouldn't say there's anything that's too sacred, but I might share something that I have some deep feeling about that I'm not specific about. You can write things, you can express vulnerability without being specific. There's a way to do it. So I wouldn't say there's anything that's off limits.
Maybe there's like something inside that you know is there that maybe like a casual listener wouldn't hear or pick up on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or I would be writing about it, but I would be coded in a way that, or encrypted in a way
That you'd have to know to get
lyrically
it.
that most people, unless you were very close to me, would not understand.
What do you deal with more? What's more of a challenge, ageism or sexism for you?
I think they're both the same. I think ageism is intertwined with sexism. I think, I don't think men have to deal with ageism. So it's a sexist discrimination.
What sorts of challenges do those things pose to you?
Well, I find it tremendously unfair that people would, have issues with, me exploring areas of sexuality in my music, or continuing to be sexually provocative, for instance, in my performances, or just having fun. I guess you're not allowed to have fun when you're in your 50s. I don't know if you're a girl. I think, Mick Jagger's allowed to have fun.
That's a good, yeah.
But I'm not allowed to have fun.
Yeah, that's an amazing point.
And if you're Mick Jagger, you're allowed to date a 25-year-old. But if you're me,
There's a problem.
you're a bitch, cunt, whore. Yeah.
Amazing point.
Yes.
Have you seen this Drake guy? In January, he's posting Instagram pics of Madonna. Were you aware of that when that was going down?
I answered him.
You did?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I'm waiting.
You're, okay. Have you heard the song Madonna by Drake?
It's the best song on the record.
You love that song?
But I've heard the whole mixtape, and it's the best song.
Better than Legend?
Oh, yeah.
Madonna's the best song. And
It
if you're
is.
reading this, it's too late.
I'm not saying just because it's like, ask other people. I'm not the only one who thinks that.
That the Madonna's the best track on that?
Yeah, even Drake thinks that.
Would you ever work with Drake? Because you haven't worked with Drake.
We're going to work together.
Is that something that's in the pipeline, something that's happening?
Yeah, baby, it's in the pipeline.
It's like a thing now, like you're working with Drake
Yeah,
on a song.
yeah.
Anything else on that?
No.
All right, that's where you leave me?
That's where you
I'm
get.
done.
Always first,
Always best.
your stories, your characters, your culture. Subscribe to Complex News
On YouTube today.
What's your favorite track?
It's, I have a few. Ghost Town, and Unapologetic Bitch, and Devil Pray. Yeah.
I like you coming out and saying I'm Madonna, bitch.
Yeah, Bitch I'm Madonna, that's a good one too.
Yeah, it is. Tell me about working with Kanye and Tyson. I mean, you put a very kind of interesting, eclectic mix together. Thank you for not duetting with Tony Bennett. We'll just let's say. But go ahead.
That would have been strange to add him to the whole.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything happened very organically. First I wrote all the songs, and then Mike Tyson came in after Iconic had been written, and I had found producers to work with, Dahi and Blood Diamonds, and then I said, okay, I would really love to have a guest feature, and I was thinking about different rappers, and I thought about Chance the Rapper, who's really at the very beginning of his career and who has an interesting take on life. But then I thought, who's really iconic and who's really represents somebody who has survived and really lived to tell a story. And and who has evolved as a human being, and gone through many challenges, et cetera, and come out on top. So Mike Tyson came to mind,
He's a
and
good guy.
he really is.
Yeah, I've gotten to know him.
Yeah, he's
We have
cool.
him on next week.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Kanye, tell me about communing with him and pulling this together.
Well, he definitely gave me lines.
Yeah.
Well, he came in as a more of an executive producer at the end when I'd written a lot of the songs, and he made comments and changed musical parts and rearranged stuff, and had an influence on the final product of
Right.
a certain number of songs. And then we wrote. We would have done a lot more, but he didn't have time. We wrote one song together, and then I decided. He asked me if he could put it on his album, and I said, okay, you take this. And then we started writing another song, but we never finished it because we didn't have time. So, but it was fun, exciting, adventurous, crazy, wild. Yeah.
A day in the life of Madonna.
Exactly.
Now, tell me about the teeth. I gotta ask. What is that?
It's a diamond grill.
Yes, the diamond grill. Do you
Yeah.
have that all the time?
I mean, I can take it off if I want to. I wear it it's like jewelry.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
does it make you feel?
Uh,
Does it inspire you, or are you aware of it?
I like the way it feels. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Some of the music seems so autobiographical.
Mm-hmm.
Holy water, I heard, as a Catholic. That's interesting. I'm sure you're going to get a little pushback on that.
Bless yourself and Jenny Black, yes.
And I love that you did some sampling. I heard some Vogue in there and different things. Tell me what went into that. I mean, I feel like everybody's always copying Madonna, and you.
Well, because I did a lot of, and I won't say I did a lot, but I do reference my own music, specifically like in Veni Vidi Vici. I talk about a lot. I talk about my life, my history, as an artist, as a songwriter, and I quote or sing different parts of my songs. And then in Holy Water, there was a point in the music where the bass line reminded me of Vogue, and so I just,
kind of sampled yourself.
Exactly.
It was really cool. I mean, everybody else samples you, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
So
Why not?
shouldn't
Yeah.
A lot of love and lost love and anger, maybe in some. Well,
Yeah.
I kept saying, "Who's this one about? Who's that about?"
Yeah, but ultimately, like the words in Living for Love, it's not about dwelling and or living in bitterness or getting caught up in bitterness, but moving on, moving through it, learning from it, and still being hopeful.
Are you in love right now?
No.
You just announced a major tour. We're all excited. Only one show at the Garden. But
Really?
Yeah, September 16th, I think.
Oh, well, maybe there will be more if
what I'm hoping.
tickets get sold. Yeah.
But in a minute. But you're not 25, you're not 30 anymore. You're going on the road. Very ambitious tour. It's almost exhausting to me to think about you going out. How does it feel for you? You're ready.
Well, I have to tell you, it was exhausting thinking about going on tour when I was 25. So touring is exhausting, whatever age you are. But it's also invigorating and exciting. So.
And to have this music that you love, I can tell this album is a special one.
Yeah.
How great will it be to bring that out to your fans?
I'm excited to perform a lot of the songs. I really am. And to do different versions of them than even what we hear on the record right now. So.
That's cool. The ageism bit. Do you feel that that's almost like the final frontier, that they can say that about women? I mean, I thought you made a very good point. People get on Instagram and social media and say whatever the hell they want.
Mm-hmm.
I follow your official one.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they're taking advantage there? Like they just feel they can say whatever they want?
I feel like it's a form of discrimination that still has not been dealt with, and it should be. I think it should be as verboten as making racist remarks or making homophobic remarks. Judging somebody by their age is what's the difference?
And it's largely a female
It is only a female
right,
thing.
which really sucks.
Yeah, so it's sexist, and it's ageist, and it's bull.
Let me ask you about the fall. I'm so upset to see you fall. That Armani cape, and then
That darn Armani cape.
that friggin' Armani cape.
Yeah.
Somebody came out and said, from Armani, and said, well, she was difficult to work with.
Really?
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Why would they say that?
Exactly, that's what I thought. Would they ever say that about a guy?
I don't know. I mean, I loved their costume that they made for me. It was fantastic.
And you were so gracious about it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the cape's fault anyways.
Now my baby's going to college next year. I only have one. I envy you.
Oh.
I read, I think you said it felt like losing an arm when your daughter went to school.
Yeah.
Tell me, and has she come back?
She's home for spring break. She's home right now, and
I actually saw a picture of her with a nose ring in the paper today or something.
yeah, it's nice to have her back. It's hard. The first month was a nightmare for me, just to like not know where she was every night, and you know, if she didn't text me good night or call me, I would worry, and eventually I learned to, you know, accept it, let go. But I'm always so happy to see her.
Does she behave when she comes home, or is she kind of over you?
She just reminds me constantly that she's 18 and I can no longer tell her what to do. So I said, but I can still have an opinion.
I also read where you talked about talking to your kids about drugs. Something I too have had to discuss with my daughter. Anybody in our age group.
Yeah.
Your daughter went away to college, and you know, some of it is illegal, so they have to be careful of that. You don't want to deal with that. But what do you tell them? I mean, you have all different ages too. What do you say about drugs? What do you say about alcohol? And like with Lourdes going to school, what do you say about sex?
Oh gosh, really? That's a loaded question. I mean, I'm not a fan of taking drugs, but I'm not going to tell my daughter not to do things. I'm just telling her to be careful. You know, a lot of really basic things. You know, never take a drink that you haven't seen somebody pour in front of you. You know, don't mix alcohol. Your basic, like, be safe, do everything in moderation. You know, that's it. That's all I can do.
Right.
And
But you have
you know,
to say
she's a
something.
singer, and I don't approve of smoking anything, cigarettes or weed. So just, she knows how I feel about it, and she's going to make her own decisions.
Right, but
Yeah.
as a singer, you do have to be especially careful.
Yeah, and she knows
It's a
that.
gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about sex? I mean, I'm dealing with this. My kid doesn't even have a boyfriend yet. She's probably going to a nanotechnology school where there's 50 kids and 45 of them are boys.
Well, it's just the fact of life, isn't it? Somehow, it's going to happen sometime. It happened to you, so it's going to happen to her. And you can't avoid it. So all you can do is, again, safe sex, have discussions about it, and encourage her to be open with you about it, and not judgmental, or you know, because then they won't feel like they can come to you and talk to you and ask you for your advice and stuff.
Right. Now, that's one thing I always say. I'll tell you the truth. Just come to me.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, Madonna released her album Rebel Heart, and she is kicking off her Rebel Heart World Tour next week. And let me tell you something, she is as feisty as ever at 57 years young.
Yeah, and from what I understand, this tour is going to wow audiences like she always does. But I gotta say, she's also quite flirty these days, as we can see here when she sat down with our special correspondent, Jason Dundas.
Ready?
Yes. On your market set, be interesting.
Yeah, go. Now, a lot of people have obviously opinions about what you do with fashion and on stage, yeah.
And just about everything.
What does it say about our culture when you hear people say act your age?
Not your shoe size.
Act your age.
Not your shoe size. Usually when someone's behaving like a child and you want them to be an adult, you
Yeah,
say
right.
that, right?
Okay.
But in my case, that wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
Because I'm so mature.
How does it make you feel when they say that?
I am acting my age. This is me. This is how I want to be. I can do what I want, okay? People should just leave me alone. I shouldn't be limited by my age or by a number. Should I?
Definitely not.
Okay. Good. I'm glad you agree with me.
With every move, Madonna actually pushes the limits. She wears a grill, flashes her backside at the Grammys. She's released her 13th album, and the mother of 4 could be open to hooking up.
If the right guy came along at the right time, is marriage something that you would...
Whoa, let's not get carried away.
Yeah, we jumped pretty quick there.
Yeah. You went from single to
Well,
married.
I've only got like 8 minutes left.
Okay, well, to propose to me, you mean?
Yeah, well, we could do that, yeah. If I'm good enough, yeah, well, we could do that, yeah. If I'm good enough.
If you're good
We'll
enough.
see.
What sign are you?
Leo. And is that compatible?
Well, I'm a Leo, too.
Is that, do 2 Leos go well together or not?
That's a lot of fire, baby.
Yeah, jeez.
My first husband was a Leo.
Okay.
Oh, we know how that ended.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Sean Penn. Not so great. They divorced in 1989, 5 years after her first ET interview.
This is from on set of your video for Borderline.
I'm out to do something, and I'm going to do it. I have to get there. And I think I have a lot of confidence in myself, so I think that's part of it. People feed off of that, your energy.
Why am I wearing purple lipstick? It's really irritating.
What do you think?
I think I'm very young.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you say to yourself back then, now? What advice would
That's
you
good.
give?
You need confidence to survive in this business.
The first stop for Madonna's Rebel Heart tour is Montreal on Wednesday, and she's playing